Natalie Benson. I'm a sophomore here, and I'm studying psychology and religion, just a little bit about myself. And will you join me in prayer to start out? Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for bringing this great community together today to worship you. I know that I've missed seeing all of these faces every Thursday night. And I also want to thank you, God, for helping us to make it through the first days of this new semester. And I ask that you help to make the rest of the semester continue to go smoothly. Dear God, I ask that you use me as a vessel to share your word and message with everybody tonight. And I ask that we all learn and hear from you. Amen. So it's a new year and a brand new semester. And with a new year usually comes brand new New Year's resolutions, ways that we want to improve ourselves. Whether your goals are related to the new year or not, usually we all have a long list of ways that we want to improve ourselves. But we all know how New Year's resolutions go. We have such good intentions, but we usually fall short. If you're anything like me, maybe your resolution this year is to try to accomplish your resolution from last year, which you probably should have done in 2015, and were really committed to doing in 2014, but had originally wrote it in 2013. So this year, I tried to keep my resolutions pretty simple. Try to call home more often, eat something green every day, and to limit my absent-minded social media scrolling. But who knows if I'll even be able to hold true to these. When I think of our tendency to make resolutions, but then how we often fail to keep them, I think of the way we as people view our brokenness. It's pretty evident that the brokenness is there, but we hate coming to terms with it. Instead of coming to terms with our brokenness, we instead try to fix ourselves. But Jesus sees our brokenness differently. He doesn't see it as an annoyance or just another goal to check off a list. He sees our brokenness as something that is beautiful and necessary. In the story of the woman in the alabaster jar from the passage we just read, the other people around ridiculed the woman for breaking the jar and pouring the perfume over Jesus' head. All they could see was the literal brokenness of the jar. But instead of ridiculing the woman, Jesus instead highlighted the beauty in the act of her bringing her brokenness to him. The importance of embracing the brokenness in our spiritual lives is often overlooked. Our brokenness brings us closer to God because sometimes we need to be broken in order to let God in. Just like you need symptoms to let you know that you're sick and bring you to a doctor, you need brokenness to lead you back to the cross. If you never had symptoms when you were sick, you may never visit the doctor even if you really needed help. Our traits of brokenness are our spiritual symptoms. So with our lives as broken as they are, it's no wonder that it's hard for us to see what God's call on our life is. But how do we see through the mess of our brokenness in order to figure out what God is trying to speak to us? To break this down, let's first talk about what a call is on a very basic level. So in the CBOC classes here in the chapel, we learn that your personal call is where the needs of the world intersect with your gifts, talents, and passions. So finding the needs of the world is the easy part because there are plenty of them. Just like we have brokenness, our world has brokenness of its own because it's made up of broken individuals. With Inauguration Day being tomorrow, many of the needs of the world that are on most people's minds have to do with the election. This particular election brought out some many ugly aspects of our nation that a lot of us had hoped and believed were healed a long time ago. Anger, hatred, oppression, and division were all common among people who needed to be united instead. Entire people groups felt fearful and unwelcome in their own home country, and families were divided over political differences. The capitalistic nature of our political system led people to feel morally conflicted in supporting either candidate. All of the needs of our world beyond these are where our world is broken. With the current state of our nation, we're in need of healers, peacemakers, strong voices to stand up for the oppressed, and people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and organize for the greater good. But it seems almost ridiculous to believe that God sees us as broken people, as people who are capable of healing such a broken world. It's difficult to understand that brokenness, whether it be on an individual level or brokenness in the world as a whole, simply makes way for God's power and glory to take action. Why is this concept so hard for us to understand and take faith in? I think that it's because we easily allow the world to define our call rather than letting God define it. We compare ourselves to what the world deems more worthy of success and happiness. It's so much easier for us to look at the outside of a person, at their appearance, their possessions, the accomplishments that they share on Facebook, than it is for us to look at their heart. Lucky for us, our God does not work this way. Our call is not out there in the world for us to frantically search for, because God put our calls in our hearts from the very beginning. Inside each of our hearts, God can look past all of our brokenness, and he sees no person's call as greater than another. He takes our worry, our anxiety, our self-doubt, all of our feelings of inadequacy, and puts it together to create something beautiful. Each person's call is not only precious in God's eyes, but it's vital to the well-being of the world. Take a minute and recognize that fact. Without you living uniquely according to God's call on your life, including all of the brokenness and the baggage that you carry with you, a piece of goodness in the world would be missing without you. Your brokenness is what makes you so precious, because it makes you, you. In Matthew 5:5, in the Beatitudes, Jesus told us that you're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more and no less. I'll say that again because I think it's really important. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more and no less. Jesus asks us in this verse to rise above the tendency to pick ourselves apart and focus only on where we see brokenness. Instead, he calls us to humbly make peace with our brokenness, to take faith in the fact that everything that you have right now is everything that you need right now, no more and no less. So instead of trying to look and find what the world wants to tell us our call is, we can instead listen to and trust that still small voice inside of us. That voice has the best intentions for us and for our broken lives. Jesus was the greatest example of embracing the brokenness of human life and trusting that still small voice. He had faith in his call to die on the cross for our sins, and in doing so, his broken body became our bread of life. He limited himself to becoming human, but because he lived life walking with God, he was able to live even a human life miraculously. We as humans are designed to live life in a similar way, because we're designed to live life walking with God. We are not defined by our limitations, but instead by the intentions that God has for us. I like to think about it like this. A bird that's on the ground is not defined by its current state on the ground, by its ability to fly. In the same way, we're not defined by what the world pushes us to be or tries to make us believe we should be, but instead by everything it means to be created in God's image. We were each created to do beautiful and important things. God's called us is simple, to embrace who we are, brokenness and all, and offer it back to God. He calls us to acknowledge and truly believe that we are everything that we need to be, no more and no less, in order to live a good and faithful life. We can start to live the life that God has in store for us when we let go of the life that we're trying to create for ourselves. We can't live life for ourselves because our lives end in our brokenness. The good news is that where our lives end, they can begin again in God's power and glory. So to put all of this in concept on a more personal level, the concept of wholeheartedly embracing myself and my brokenness in order to fully live into God's call in my life has always been a real struggle for me. Since I was younger, I've always panicked at the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Can anyone relate to that? Glad I'm not alone. It wasn't necessarily because I didn't know what I wanted to be, but because I struggled to see past my own brokenness and into the possibility of me actually being able to live into my call. I felt called to ministry since a very young age, and I'm officially the slowest person ever to accept that call. I push off any big decision that would leave me even remotely close to accepting the call, because I think I'm scared to acknowledge that I feel a call at all. I was so weird about even declaring religion as my major, because to me, declaring that as my major meant that I was actually willing to think about pursuing a career in ministry. So to me, the only logical option was to avoid making a decision about that at all costs. But as much as I didn't want to admit it to myself, I was really interested in religion, and classes that I wanted to take just kept popping up. So finally I said, fine God, just this once, and I took just one religion course. When I realized that I loved it, I decided that I wanted to keep taking the classes that I enjoyed, so I said, fine God, and decided to minor in religion. When I started liking my religion courses more than my actual major courses, I realized I was being a little ridiculous and just needed to accept the call already. So again, I said, fine God, and finally declared my major as religion. So now I'm moving closer and closer to accepting the call, but even with all of the back and forth I've had with God, I still find myself second guessing. Why am I so reluctant to follow through with what I know God has been calling me to do the entire time? I think it's because when thinking of myself as a professional in the career of ministry, all I can see are the qualities in myself that I think would hold me back in the field. I can only see my brokenness. It's taken God calling to me again and again and again for me to even halfway put my trust in his plans for me. But God's used my brokenness to his and my advantage. When all I could see was my brokenness, which led to my own self-doubt, he saw my brokenness and self-doubt as a chance to reiterate his call to me over and over. During this time of me wrestling with my call, which, by the way, is definitely still not over, I've communed with God more than I've ever had to before. It's given me a chance to walk with him because I believed in him even when I didn't believe in myself. I'm sure that I'm not the only one in this room tonight who struggled to see past their own brokenness in order to see what God asks of you. If any of you can relate to this at all, I ask one simple thing of you. Not for you to identify exactly what God is calling you to do in this moment, not for you to pick out what brokenness may be holding you back, not even for you to have any vague idea of what your hopes for the future are. I ask you to set a new and improved New Year's resolution for yourself. And that is to work, little by little, to embrace yourself with all of your brokenness and offer it to God. This may be that you want to take that class that really interests you, even if you don't think that you're smart or prepared enough to handle it. It may be that you want to stand up against what you think is wrong or unjust, even if you believe that you're too shy to have a voice. Or it may be that you want to fill the shoes of somebody that you don't think you're qualified to fill. Whatever it is, take the risk. Embrace the mistakes, failures, and brokenness. Because every time we mess up, it gives God an opportunity to step in. And every time that we allow God to step into our lives, we allow for beautiful things to become of them.